Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens mistake regular people as customers, and the stories are hilarious. And in today's episode, a woman accuses a store of actually promoting kidnapping after she's refused to be served. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So this is more of an indirect I don't work here lady. For a little bit of background, I work as a security guard, and I also tend to cuss a lot in my speech. I don't even realize that most of the time, but anyways, here's the story. I had just gotten off my shift, and I was still in my work clothes when I decided to go to a grocery store on the way home. As I was going in the store, I see a friend of a friend standing by the entrance. I decide to talk to him for a bit and then entered the store. A couple of minutes go by, and I'm doing my shopping when all of a sudden, the manager walks up to me, yelling at me saying, "Are you the one that was screaming and cussing out that one dude in the front?" I just sat there confused, with a dumb look on my face for a couple of seconds. And then I realized that when I was talking to the friend, there was a lady who walked by, who gave us a dirty look, telling us to watch our mouths, but I didn't think twice about it. The manager was referring to me and my friend. So I say to the manager, no, I was talking to a friend outside, but I wasn't screaming or yelling. I say, we were having a conversation, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. The manager says in response, okay, well, some lady just reported that the store security guard, referring to me, and a homeless person were screaming and cussing each other out in front of the store, and that she was scared for her life. At that, I respond, we were just having a conversation. Maybe we were a little loud, but I wouldn't say we were yelling, and we definitely weren't doing anything aggressive. The manager responds with, okay, she did seem like she was exaggerating, but anyways, I'm gonna go try to find out what's going on. She then walks away. That's when an employee walks up and says, I know what happened. We have a regular customer that comes in that loves to complain. At that, I start dying laughing because all this confusion and BS was down to the way I talk. After that, I finished up my shopping and went home. Guys, thank goodness nothing more came out of that, and OP just left. And seriously, you'd think that out of everyone, the store manager would know what store security looks like, so she should have left OP alone for sure. Like the fact that the manager even approached OP and tried to berate them over some loud talking and swearing was a bit over the top. With that said, not surprising that Karen tried to make up a story to get OP in trouble, right? Manager, they were so violent and I was scared for my life. I really thought this was gonna be some Mortal Kombat stuff. Do something about it. Some people really need to mind their own business. This happened well over a decade ago, and I still tell this story to people I meet. This happened when I was 17 years old, working as a counselor for a summer day camp run by the city. We would take the kids on weekly field trips, and today we were visiting an all-time favorite, Chuck E. Cheese. All of the counselors love this place because it's fairly easy to keep all 50 children contained and within eyesight. Plus, the city provides us with money to buy enough pizza for all the kids and counselors, which meant free lunch for us. So we walk in the front door, get our hands stamped, and I seat my group in the party area, so they can be entertained by Chucky while I go to the soda fountain to get the drinks. I fill up about 9 cups and I make it about halfway back before I feel a sudden jerk on my shirt from behind, causing me to spill soda all over myself. I turn around to find this extremely angry woman holding a crying toddler by the hand. She says to me, "Excuse me, but that stupid game just stole my son's tokens. Do something about it." Now me, being 17 years old, extremely awkward, with absolutely no social skills, had no idea how to handle this lady. So I say to her, sorry? The woman then grabs me by the sleeve and she tries to take me to the said game. She screams, "Someone needs to fix this. It owes him 3 tickets. Again, I tell her, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." Which then prompts the Karen to say, "Then why are you wearing a staff shirt?" Now, the woman is right, I'm wearing a staff shirt. However, it clearly says the name of my city, Summer Camp Staff, on the back. The shirt is also neon green, and it looks nothing like the red polos and the black visors the Chuck E. Cheese staff wear. There's also 8 other counselors who's also wearing the exact same shirt, as well as 50 kids nearby with their bright green camper shirts on. We're clearly an outside group visiting on a field trip. I then apologize for the misunderstanding again and tell her that I'm here with the daycare and continue my awkward waddle towards my kids' table. The Karen then rolls her eyes and storms away. I'm a bit annoyed that now I'm covered in soda, but I figure the woman's just stressed from being surrounded by a ton of screaming kids, and she just got mixed up looking for a staff member. So I shrug it off and continue to retrieve drinks and pizza for my kids. They get their food and everything is fine. A few minutes later, the poor soul assigned to dance around in the Chucky suit comes strutting out from behind the stage and begins dancing to a Kidz Bop version of some pop song. He's instantly swarmed by the entire summer camp. The kids are crawling on him, pulling his shirt, and some little kid is trying to get above him on the stage so he can pull his head off. And that's when I see her. Karen has now decided that the appropriate person to confront about the ticket issue is Chucky the Mouse himself. In her simple mind, instead of looking for a regular staff member, she's skipping the entire chain of command and she's going straight to the CEO. Because surely he wouldn't tolerate children having their tickets stolen by games in his establishment. So in the midst of the screaming kids, she's closing in on him, shouting, excuse me," while pushing my children to the side. She manages to get about 5 feet away from him and starts waving her hands around frantically. She shouts, "One of your games is broken. I need to talk to you." She's just shouting over the music and the screaming kids. And clearly, Chucky doesn't give a crap. He doesn't even see her. He's just trying to survive the waves of incoming kids. Angry mom then has enough. She snatches up her kid by the arm and turns away, stomping her feet so that Chucky himself can see how visibly angry she is. And she yells, "We are never coming back here again," making sure to glare at me and my fellow counselors on the way out. I should also mention that she left an entire uneaten pizza on their table when she stormed out, but somehow the loss of 3 tickets, with a total value of about 2 cents when exchanging for prizes, was enough to ruin her entire day. Oh man, guys, just picturing that woman in the midst of screaming children trying to make her way to a giant costumed mouse to complain is absolutely hilarious. Like the fact that that woman thought that the person in a store mascot costume was the person to complain to, absolutely mind-boggling, right? And if you thought that was over the top, listen to this next one, where a Karen believes that OP's meant to serve her everywhere she goes. It's wild. Firstly, I'm gonna lay the groundwork. I currently work at a charity thrift store for a very low income. As with many stores, we get what's called regular customers, and they come in about every single day. And the majority of them are really nice, really genuine, and upstanding people to be around. I really do like these people as they know how to treat people. But there's a small few who are on the contrary to that, which is to be expected, but hey, it comes with the territory working in retail. Anyways, one night, I get off work, and I was at a nearby grocery store getting stuff for my lunches. While I was there, I was approached by this familiar lady, a Karen, who frequents the store I work at. So the woman approaches me, and she demands that I give her the stuff out of my cart, as in her mind, I was just putting them back where they belong. Like what I would do if there's nothing else to do while I'm at work. However, in this case, I wasn't there working. Again, I don't work for the chain we're shopping at. She was pointing at my canned beef ravioli and demanding that I load it all in her cart, or else. I then say to her, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't work here. I work at the thrift store," which means, like you, I'm a customer here. She wasn't having any of it though, so she decides to try to take the cans out of my cart, and seeing this, I kindly told her to get it herself, pointing to the canned soups and meal section of the store. At this point, an employee who saw what was going on decides to step in and help her with getting the cans herself. And I thought that was the end of it, but I thought wrong. A little later, I was getting a couple of gallons of milk, and the next thing I know, I'm hearing the all too familiar voice demanding me to give her my milk from my cart. Again, I tell her to go get it herself, saying, "Ma'am, I do not work here, leave me alone. please stop bugging me and let me carry out my shopping, and you can carry on with your shopping. I told her this very politely while hiding all the annoyance I was harboring towards the lady. After that, she decides to just follow me throughout the store, trying to bark orders at me, demanding I give her some stuff off the shelves and such, but I wasn't having any of it. I didn't oblige with her demands or anything. The woman even said stuff to me like, "I'm gonna tell your manager back at that rundown shack of a thrift store that you work at that you are not obeying me." Finally, Karen decides that she's had enough of me ignoring her, and when I got to the checkout stand, she decides to stand right beside me and scream for a supervisor, who came and stood there patiently listening to her. Of course, the supervisor tells her, "Lady, he doesn't even work for the store. And from what my sources have reported to me is you've been following him around, harassing him non-stop." Hearing that, the lady turns her hate and such away from me, and she blares it all at the manager saying, "How dare you take your incompetent employee's side? Obviously, this is his second job. If you don't do something about this, his boss at the thrift store will hear about this, and he will be fired and arrested." The woman then shoves her cart at me, but the manager got in its way and blocked it, causing it to go crashing into a pillar. Soon, security was called and they escort her out. And with this, again, I thought it was gonna be the end of it. But no, the very next day, I get to work and I'm brought into the manager's office. The woman had called my work. She described me, and she said I was not only disobeying what she was asking, that I had gotten really aggressive towards her. I had to explain to my boss what actually happened due to the severity of the complaint. They then got on the phone with the grocery chain, and by good fortune, they got in touch with the manager who ordered the security, and they went back and forth. Thankfully, the manager actually took my side and said, "No, you're not in any kind of trouble." The manager of the grocery store explained everything to us, and it was enough for us to bar that lady from the premises of the store. As for her being able to go and shop at that grocery chain, it was shared to my boss that she's been dealt with and banned from that place as well. All in all, this was the last that I heard from it, and I'm quite glad that truth and reason did reign supreme here. And I hope that no one else will have to endure the wrath of this lady. Yeah, I hope so too, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if she was out there right now, guys, tormenting some other poor soul as we speak. Because we all know people like this never learn, right? And people like her need some friggin' hobbies or friends, because I swear, only miserable people take time out of their day to do something like this. Thankfully, OP's manager did take their side after talking to the other store manager. But in my head, I'm thinking, is that really necessary? Like, it wasn't an incident that happened at OP's work. So did the manager really have to go to that extent to call the other store manager? Guys, I have never been a store manager, but if someone called and complained about one of my employees saying, "This happened at this place, they didn't obey me," I would have been like, "Okay, thanks for calling, ma'am, I will deal with it," and then just laugh. This happened a few months ago, mid-October, when the weather was still nice where I live. I went to our local Kroger to grab a few things I needed for dinner. This is important because I wasn't using a cart, just a basket. My oldest son, who's 3.5, loves to go to the store, and he loves to do anything that involves getting out of the house. So I decide to let him tag along and leave his other brother at home with dad. Grocery trips for us are kind of like mom and son dates, so I usually let him pick out a toy or treat of some kind. I also try to keep things exciting for him, and this is where this story comes into play. I want to note that on this day, I was wearing a light blue polo. The store's dress code is a dark blue polo with the store logo and khakis. I was also wearing jean shorts that was in no way too short, but definitely wouldn't be allowed for any employee of a grocery store. About 20 minutes into the trip, I had grabbed a few vegetables I needed, and I was shopping around the canned good aisle. I was putting a can of something back in exchange for a larger version I didn't see at first, when I hear, "Ma'am, I need your assistance right this instant." Now, not working there, I figured somebody was just being an a-hole to a nearby worker, and carried on. Until about 30 seconds later, while looking at a different canned good item, Karen grabs my arm and says, "Excuse me." At that, I reply, "Excuse me, can I help you?" Karen then says, "I know you heard me, so help me find blah 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 right now." I tell her I clearly don't work here, so how about no and don't you touch me again, get away from me. She then says, Why are you even holding a kid while working? Who did you take him from? Go find this child's parents instead of dilly-dallying around, or else I'll find the manager and tell them you weren't gonna give this child back. Me, completely stunned and pissed off at this point, said, for one, I don't work here, lady, and this child happens to be my son. Are you okay? Karen then says, this is not your child. You don't even look older than 16. So who are you keeping this child from? I tell her, lady, I'm 25 years old. He came from me and he's my son. I do not work here. Now get the hell away from me before I get a manager myself. You're scaring my son. At this point, my son's visibly scared, and Karen says he only looks scared because you stole him from someone. I then say to her, are you even listening to what you're saying? You're accusing me of stealing him while on the clock. Karen then says, see, you just admitted it. You do work here. My son is crying at this point, so I just grab his hand and walk away to find a manager as fast as I can, with Karen just screaming behind me that she's getting a manager and that I'm kidnapping a child. So of course, people are starting to look. I finally find the manager, and it doesn't take much to explain the situation, as Karen was trailing right behind me, screaming as I was talking to him. The manager very quickly confirmed that I did not work there, and then told her to leave for making such accusations. The woman, of course, refused to leave, causing an even bigger scene, saying how we were human trafficking in the store. And she ends up calling police. She reported a kidnapping. She's then arrested in front of 150 people. Basically, all I had to do was tell the cops my situation and how she was following me throughout the store, accusing me of stealing my own son, and that was that. I just went home and went on with the rest of my day. Karen, I sincerely hope that whatever you were looking for was worth jail and you received the mental health care that you clearly need. Yeah, that woman was definitely not in her right state of mind, because for somebody to make those wild accusations when not getting what they want is, for the lack of a better term, bonkers. And like OP said, hopefully she got the care she needs and she's doing much better now, for her sake and other people's. A while back, I was working in this office that allowed dogs. It was an open floor plan, and since customers never came into the office, we kept the dogs' food and water bowls right by the front door, just because it was the most convenient space, and no one else would see them but us who worked there. Of the 6 of us who worked in the main office area, the only one who didn't have a dog, and always felt horribly left out, was me. To make matters worse, across the way was a doggy daycare. One day, a very frantic woman comes in, and she had an absolutely massive basset hound with her. Usually, the only people who came into the office were associates who had appointments, but it was rare they brought their dogs. The woman just ran up to me and said, "Do you work here?" I tell her, "Yes, how can I help you?" She then said, "I wasn't sure if you took walk-ins, but I read online that I could just drop him off. I tried to call, but no answer." Now, I didn't know what she was talking about at that point, and I say, "Come again? Who did you call exactly?" Thinking if I could saddle her off to whoever she came to see, I wouldn't have to decipher her problem. The woman then says, "Well, it doesn't matter now, trust me. Look, something urgent's come up and I really need to leave him here. Here's the food he likes and I'll be back in a few hours." At this point, I wasn't thinking of the doggy daycare. I thought maybe she was a friend of someone who works here. So I say, "Well, alright, can I get your name please?" She then said her name and she asked if I needed her to sign anything. And I was so confused at this point. I said, "Why would I need you to sign something?" And with that, she left almost immediately. So I took the dog named Otis to the back and I showed him to my coworkers, and nobody knew the woman or dog. I was worried that she wouldn't come back, but at the same time, my wish for an office dog had been granted. And Otis was supremely chill. All he did was lie around and drool onto his own ears. I just freshened him up every now and then. I took him out every couple of hours, and he was as happy as a clam on a big cushy dog bed that we thankfully had an extra of. He just loved the attention from anywhere he could get it. At the end of the day, the woman came back, and thank goodness she came back. She said, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver. How was he?" And I said, "He was a champ." And I was about to say, "But why is he here?" when she said to me, "That's a relief. Most kennels say he gets anxious around other dogs. I heard you operated at a much higher capacity, and I was thrilled to see that you had so few clients in the room at one time. So how much do I owe you?" And that's when I realized that she thought we were a dog daycare. Now, I probably should have corrected her, but I did love my day with the office dog, and I did want to get paid for supervising this strange dog all day. So I just threw out the number that sounded fair and appropriate. I say to her, "That'll be $20. Hearing that, she replied, "Really?" in this very high tone. I couldn't tell if I overshot or undershot, but she paid me and left. My coworkers were laughing hysterically when they realized what happened, and we thought it would just be a good story for the future. But next week, the woman came back. She said we were so much more affordable and less overcrowded than the other place that she was happy to use us. I was just glad for the company, so I took him. Now, I didn't think there was any way she couldn't have at least had some idea we weren't a dog daycare. The whole ordeal was so strange that I just figured, don't question a good thing. Not long after, Otis started getting dropped off like 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 days a week, and I was in heaven. He was such a love. He made fast friends with everyone. One day, we took our office Christmas card photo, and Otis was over that day, so we included him in a Santa hat. It was pretty great, but it turns out Otis's owner was friends with one of our clients, who I guess happened to have the card out on her table, or she was kind enough to display it alongside her other holiday cards. Because one day, Otis's owner came in holding the card. She walked up to me and said, "I can't believe I'm asking this, but is this my dog in the photo? This isn't a dog daycare at all. This is an office, isn't it?" She said it with a note of surprise, as though she was looking around and putting it all together for the first time. She then said, "Then who are all these other dogs?" I then explained, and I was terrified that she was gonna demand her money back, or worse, take some sort of legal action against us for misrepresenting ourselves as a dog daycare business or complain to corporate or something. Instead, she basically says, "Then why didn't you ever say anything?" I then explained that I really liked having Otis around. She then stopped for a minute, and she seemed to be thinking, and she said, "Is that right?" I then said yes, and I told the story of how I was the only one in the office without a dog, so I loved the company. At that, the woman seemed a little hesitant, understandably, because the whole thing was so weird. She then turned to my coworker and asked if I was telling the whole truth, and I don't know why she thought my coworker, also a stranger to her, was any more trustworthy than me, but hey, strange times. Coworker backed me up. She then said, "Well, I wish you would have said something sooner. It could have saved me a lot of embarrassment with my friend back there. Alright, I have to get going. See you at 4 o'clock. And she left Otis. I couldn't believe it. I say to her, "So he can stay?" And she replied, "Where else could I find somebody to watch him one-on-one all day for $20? And at that, off she went. Otis stayed my office dog until his family moved away. Luckily, right around the same time I took a new job. With all this time sitting around doing nothing, I thought it was a good time to tell this story. And what a wholesome story it was, guys. I absolutely love the fact that OP just watched a random dog and that it ended up working out so well for both sides. And some would say that $20 is way too cheap to look after a dog, but honestly, if Otis was a great dog, which clearly he was, that company was well worth it. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our /entitledpeople episode, where a psycho Karen accuses OP of something and she gets arrested. It's such a wild story. So go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.